So I see a lot of businesses that are looking for what we call ready-made employees. So employees that have background maybe in the industry that you're in or have worked for a competitor. But the reality is though that is great to have somebody with some experience, what's even better is making sure that that person works really well within a team. A really high performer that does not work well with others can almost be a toxic injection into your work environment and hurt your overall team's productivity. So that's the first thing that I highly recommend other businesses to start implementing is making sure that the people you're bringing on board are the most important people to bring.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Are Leaders podcast with Harry Sardinas. Interviews with world's most influential entrepreneurs that share tips about how to grow your business exponentially. Charismatic speaking, leadership, branding, marketing strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.
What are the 5 steps to get your operation efficient for your business? And today we have Kassandra Murray with us, and he's a marketing and operation consultant whose passion for creativity and efficiency has evolved into a career of designing processes built with people in mind. Cassandra brings a rare perspective by consulting on both marketing and operations, two areas most consultants treat separately. A consulting approach bridge the gap between marketing creativity and operations analytical structure. So Cassandra, tell us, joining from Ohio, so tell us what are the 5 steps to get your operation efficient of your business?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for having me. But to kind of get into the 5 major things I always recommend to just about every business that I work with, the first is to create a really strong hiring practice that looks at how people work within a team environment and not necessarily their individual skill sets. So I see a lot of businesses that are looking for what we call ready-made employees. So employees that have background maybe in the industry that you're in or have worked for a competitor. But the reality is though that is great to have somebody with some experience, what's even better is making sure that that person works really well within a team. A really high performer that does not work well with others can almost be a toxic injection into your work environment and hurt your overall team's productivity. So that's the first thing that I highly recommend other businesses to start implementing is making sure that the people you're bringing on board are the most important people to bring. The second thing
Next
that,
step?
yeah. The second thing that I always tell every business to do is to start documenting everything and have a centralized documentation location. There's a stat out there that I like to share that 20% of an employee's time is spent just trying to figure out how to do their job. So in a 40-hour work week, that's almost an entire day is dedicated just trying to figure out how to do what they need to do next. So having a centralized location with documentations on how to do things, such as who are your vendors, how to complete a process, what to do when you run into problems, troubleshooting steps, having that all in one centralized location that employees can trust and reference throughout the day can reduce your wasted time and your employees' time by over 20% if we can get them looking at the same documentation and sharing information.
Yeah. And then I think that a lot of people in the organization, they said, okay, I want to increase my sales. I want more clients. And sometimes they don't even need more clients. What they need is an efficient operation. And sometimes, most of the time, the problem is in operation. It's eating all the budget and because of ineffective processes. So, and the companies, like I always said, if you have like a small mess and then you find more clients, you spawn a big mess. So the operation, if you bring more clients, but the operation are inefficient, they're gonna keep being even create a bigger problem. And I
Yeah.
think, Cassandra, that my question to you is about the structure when you make this operation efficient, because it's like these organizations are like Titanic. It's like a big boat, okay, very heavy, So when you said turn right, now we have to turn the whole boat right. Whether is you will have 3,000 little boats, okay, and every little boat have like a mini captain, and then the CEOs at the front. You said turn right, and then all these little boats will turn right very quickly, and that's how big companies respond to change fast. But it has to be in a structure in a way that how they operate it. So tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the biggest challenge that you have find helping your clients.
Yeah, so when it comes to like larger clients, even smaller clients struggle with this too. That's like change management is what we're talking about. Is how do you get everybody on board with that same move of going right, right? Or making that directional change. And the way that I like to try to encourage leadership to approach it is to not have this top down approach, which is leadership's telling you to do XYZ, you need to start doing XYZ, right? What I like to do is find somebody within non-leadership positions, and I call them like process champions. And I actually make it a part of their job to build out processes for their department, for their team. And they are the ones that start to implement that change, right? Because people are more likely to follow a coworker if they see a coworker is having a better, quality of life improvements with these processes, or their work life balance has gotten better with these processes. They're more likely to follow that lead than to necessarily follow the lead of somebody top down, basically making them feel like they're being forced to make those changes. So I always like to kind of infiltrate within and infect within this new process forward thinking. And normally what happens is as people see that other individuals are jumping on the boat and jumping on the train, the bandwagon to start adding and implementing processes, it becomes a part of the culture and not just a directive from leadership.
So why you decided to start this business like 2 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
tell us what's the story.
Yeah. So my background is in manufacturing. I originally have a degree in graphic design and illustration, which is a crazy path, but I was the first employee of a print manufacturing plant. And as we grew, I started to see like a pattern of I would do something and say 3 or 6 months later, I would need to do that task again. And I couldn't remember what I did the first time. So it felt like every single time I was doing a task, I was reinventing the wheel or doing some crazy dance or move of actions to try to get something to work for me. And then I started to focus more on processes. And what I found was my day to day became way less stressful. I was way faster, more efficient. And I also saw like my coworkers were wanting to do kind of what I was doing, trying to figure out how I was implementing it. So I worked there for 11 years and I grew into the operations manager position at that business. And what I found is we worked really closely with other businesses because it was print manufacturing, that other businesses had this same problem, right? Where they had high turnover or employees couldn't figure out how to do their job, or management felt unsatisfied with the quality of work that they were getting out of their staff. And so I had a really good example is I have one customer that they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to double our spending in marketing. And I came back and I was like, well, let's like look at your operations instead. And they were looking to invest about $40,000 in marketing, but I convinced them to make about a $10,000 investment in operations instead. And that $10,000 investment resulted in almost $900,000 increase in revenue. So that was kind of my catalyst of there's something here and there's clearly something missing in the market, especially when we talk about like marketing and advertising, where marketing gets the leads to your door, but your operations really facilitates your ability to grow. And I think one without the other holds a business back. So that's really how I started the business. And it's been a really exciting journey the last 2 years of seeing so many owners get so excited about operations and processes like I am.
So tell us about the transition between corporate to having your own business, because in corporate, uh, Sometimes you can tell people when they ask you to do something, you can tell them, I'm sorry, this is not my job. But when you own a business, everything is your job. So tell us about what is the good, the bad, and the ugly of the transition between to be corporate and to be your own uh, boss and be in charge of your own boss.
Yeah. So for me, like you hear it from a lot of business owners, but it's the having to wear multiple hats. So I'm not just the business owner, I'm the sales reps. I'm the executioner of like all the projects. I'm the project manager. I'm the coordinator. I am the, person that, if I need to purchase from a vendor or work with a vendor, I'm the main contact for that. So the bandwidth issue has always been, the biggest struggle as being a business owner, but I've found ways, at least for me particularly, to help me scale within reason, right? So I'm trying not to scale super fast within a short amount of time with a huge amount of budget. I'm really trying to scale more equitably. So I'm working with subcontractors to help hand off some of the work that I do on the day-to-day basis, or hand off, say, maybe less time sensitive work. That way I can focus more on the time sensitive stuff and give my customers the best experience possible.
Tell us about the relationship between marketing and operations. Why they are
Yeah.
goes hand in hand.
Yeah, so the kind of what I mentioned before, your marketing is a way to generate new leads, but your operations is really how you facilitate taking in those new leads and the customer experience that you give to those leads when they convert to customers, right? So the problem that I see a lot of times is businesses invest so much in marketing that they do grow in a non-sustainable manner. So then the businesses are struggling to keep up with the influx of customers and leads that they get in, and they provide a poorer experience, right? A lower quality experience. And in turn, that hurts their reputation. And at the end of the day, no amount of spending in marketing is going to outpace a bad reputation. So it's really important that you have a really good marketing strategy, but you also have a really strong operational presence that can support any type of influx of leads that comes through. On top of that, you have employee turnover that gets affected by your operations. And if you have high employee turnover, that means you have a lot of constantly new people coming into the workplace that may not know how to do their jobs really well. And again, that just continues to contribute to a poor customer experience. So the reality is investing money into your operations is something that can also help you stand out from competition, just like marketing does.
And then, Cassandra, what are the uh, as the biggest challenge that you have with your clients and how you overcome that challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is change management, not only for employees when we try to implement new things, but also for leadership. Because I have one leader right now that I'm working with, and it takes a long time to get them on board. But a couple weeks ago, we were talking about like working on implementing new operational improvements for them, and they rebutted with, "Well, I just want to focus on sales." So like the marketing side of the business, they're like, "Sales can solve any problems that I have," and I was like, "Okay, like that's one way to look at it." And then 2 weeks later, two of their employees quit, and now they're frantically trying to, one, they're overworking all their other employees because they're two people short now, right? And then two, they're having to spend so much time, energy, and effort trying to replace those two employees. And the reality is sales can't solve that problem. That is 100% an operational problem. So there is a lot of change management, and culturally, people are so focused on sales that they don't see the cost savings that can come with operational improvement that in a way pays for itself over time.
Now, what happened with culture and legacy? Okay, because now if we want to improve operations, that that brings to the table that people have to do different things that they are not used to, from C-level to management to the employees. And then you have the resistance that have done some corporate training myself, and I find this challenge found the challenge that the people they don't want to change. They want to do exactly what they were doing
Yeah.
before, and then the CEO bring me to solve the problem. Then I'm sitting in the room with 400 people, very like this. But they all know it was a corporate, like it's like similar like a bank in Latin America. So they all know that the CEO already sit with me and told me that that they need to become more agile. They need to take different position because if somebody's sick, somebody need to replace it. And all of them, if whoever is in the team want to be always in the team, whoever is here to be, and they don't have any interest whatsoever to change. And
Yep.
then they say me, and then they say me. It's so so we prepared tailored workshop and we measure the KPIs and we managed uh, to turn around the situation in the companies around the world. This is what we do. However, uh, it's a big challenge, right? When we
Yeah.
need to get the people to change, right? Not even legacy, even the equipment with this AI and all this cloud computing. That you go to the big company, they have all equipment and nobody wants to change anything. And you just need to go to the bank and you see the software in the bank and it's like lines like from the 80s
Yeah.
and you think, why are they doing this? Well, when you look back, is a legacy there that is a big challenge. So uh, how you implement that change moving forward to get an operation more efficient? What? Sorry, that implies a change of culture. That implies a change of how people have been doing things for 20 years, and now they have to do something different. So, how you enroll the people in the organization to positive change?
Yeah, so the reality is that's just human nature. Like humans don't like anything new. They don't like to change something that they've been doing for a long period of time. And that's where I lean back onto that process champion. When you have, and it's important to also identify people who are not early adopters, right? So the people who are not your early adopters are the people that are like, I've been doing this for 20 years, it's so dumb that we're going to try to do something different. If it's not broken, why fix it? These people don't have the same vision as somebody who is an early adopter, and your early adopters are really the people that are going to drive that cultural change within your business. I do still try to implement a lot of things because the reality is people don't like change because they're afraid of what may come with the change, right? There are people that go, am I going to have a job after this? What is my purpose if we stop doing it this way that I've been involved in for the last 10, 15, 20 years? And it's really important to give people a full vision of what the company is trying to do. I heard a really good analogy a couple of weeks ago and I loved it. They talked about how when you're in a car with somebody and they're driving, think of that as like the CEO. The CEO knows what turns they're going to make, they know when they're going to change lanes, they know if they're going to speed up or slow down, they know what exits they're going to get off of. But as a passenger, you're not in their brain. So you don't know what they're doing, what they're thinking, what's going on. So it's really critical leadership to not only obviously pick that change champion to help create that confidence within the workforce, but also provide clarity and visibility to your workforce as well, so that they understand where you're going, when you're going to change lanes, if you're going to speed up or slow down, and how that's going to impact them. So it's a little bit of both. The people who are late adopters, you just want to slowly, not fast, but slowly squeeze them too, right? Squeeze them into this new process that you want them to do, because ideally you don't want them to quit because turnover is very expensive, but sometimes turnover is necessary to as an overall improvement to an organization.
So, the next question is regarding how you become a leader, because now when you have to train this organization, uh, you one of the most important part is leadership. You have to be a leader yourself, and then to enroll them in this new activity. So, and what is it? Where you start from? You start from the top, from the bottom. How you enroll the whole organization in the new chain that is about to come?
Yes. So normally it always does start with the top because the top is the people who are typically engaging me first. But when I start to look at ways to improve processes, a lot of my beginning initial interaction is interviews. So I'm engaging with the employees on a private basis without leadership in the room. And I actually ask questions about what are the problems? What makes your day so frustrating? Why is it hard to get your job done? Who makes it hard to get your job done? Because sometimes people can be in the way of making it difficult to be more efficient. So, having those private conversations with employees in a way that they feel safe, that they can openly provide feedback, gives me a bigger perspective because normally there's patterns. So I may interview 5, 10, 15, 20 employees and I start to see, oh, this one process is making everybody miserable and it's not providing any value to the business. We can become more efficient or we can tweak it. Another thing that I'm trying to push with leadership is look at desire paths within processes. So you see this a lot in urban development. They talk about desire paths. Humans will cut across a lawn, right, to get to their place faster, right, to get to their destination faster. And the reality is this is only discussed in urban development, but that's how our brains work 24/7. And those same desire paths exist within processes. So what I like to do is talk to employees and figure out what are the corners that they're cutting, why are they cutting those corners, does it still work by cutting those corners, and that's the desire paths, right? So those are very quick and easy ways to get improvements and it make everything more efficient is by finding those little nuggets. So yeah, typically it starts with leadership, but the answers, the solutions to the problems are always found within those engagements with the employees.
So, Cassandra, the um, one of the uh, things that we saw, for example, in COVID, it was that when things they were not doing good, everybody cut the budget in marketing.
Yeah.
And whether actually, if everybody's cutting the budget, that these pay per click and all these campaigns, they are the more people bid, the expensive it is. So if everybody's cutting the budget, actually become cheaper to the marketing, right? So, what was your view on in terms of marketing to this approach that people are seeing marketing uh, as an expense rather than an investment in order to get more clients? So, can you share with me the what's your view on this?
So when are you talking about when marketing isn't performing, like the first interaction is to cut it
N-
or
No, when let's say marketing is performing well, but then something like COVID happens, and now everybody panic and they
oh
say,
yeah.
okay, you know what? Let's cut the marketing budget because this is an expense. And everybody, when times are bad, everybody cut expenses and they put marketing in that bucket. Where marketing is actually an investment. You invest in marketing and then you got your clients. If you don't get clients, you're not gonna sell. So tell us about your view on this, right? Why you think that companies, when times go are not as good as before, they decide that marketing is an overhead and we need to cut the budget. The budget.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from just leadership often is quick to make decisions sometimes instead of stepping back and looking at data in general. And that's one thing that I highly recommend any business to get into is having at least somebody on your team that can analyze data at some capacity, right? And specifically like on the marketing side is leadership oftentimes gets caught up in the flashy stuff around marketing, So they see everybody's on social media, or they see everybody is doing Google advertisements or direct mail, whatever that may be. What I think they miss out on is opportunities of being in places that your competition is not, right? So instead of cutting back your marketing because it's not performing well, reallocating makes way more sense, right? So I have a really good example of, I have a client that does a lot of magazine advertisements, and I hear so many people, like, when they hear that, they're like, magazines, really, like, in this day and age? But that client sees, I think they invest anywhere around like $20,000 or $30,000 a year, and they get over $1 million in revenue from that advertisements within magazines. So, and it's just, they are advertising in a way that their competition is not within that format. So yeah, I see it a lot where people cut it back when it doesn't perform, or if there's some outside circumstance going on. But the reality is if you want to stand out from your competition, you need to be doing stuff your competition is not doing. And that can look like spending money on marketing when others are not, or investing in marketing avenues that your competition is not, but still it's in front of your individual audience.
And what message do you have to entrepreneurs out there that don't take operations seriously, and a lot of inefficiency, money gets eaten there and nobody realized, and worse, the company gets low in a concept that we talked before, which is respond to change, which, as we know, there are several companies that have collapsed because they can respond fast enough to change. So tell us what message do you have for those entrepreneurs?
Yeah, there is a saying in manufacturing when it comes to equipment. It is, if you don't schedule time to maintenance your equipment, it'll schedule time for you. And in the sense of, it'll go down, essentially. And I think that phrase translates really well into operations as well. If you don't take time to invest into your operations, eventually something will go catastrophically wrong, and you will be forced to actually fix all the operational problems that you have. So instead of waiting for the catastrophe, invest a little bit every day and every year to make sure that it's improving and it's at the highest quality, instead of waiting for that catastrophe to hit.
So if someone is in love about this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works?
Yeah. The best way to reach me is just to reach out to our website. It's unluckyumbrella.com. You can also find us on any social media, but we're the most active on LinkedIn, and it's under the same name. So just look for Unlucky Umbrella Studio.
Well, thank you so much, Cassandra, for the broadcast. And for all of you following the podcast, entrepreneurs, leaders, our next episode, our brave entrepreneur like Cassandra, break that wall and make business the world, better business for the world. Bye for now.
Follow us for more on charismatic speaking, leadership, exponential business growth, branding, marketing, strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.